As a first step, what we need to do is we need to create a Docker ID, right? So we'll go to hub.docker.com and give our credentials to sign up. So I'll just add a unique Docker ID and my email ID and my password. Okay, so once I have this stuff, I just confirm that I'm not a robot and I'll sign up. So it will ask me to choose a plan, so I'll go with a free plan. So continue with free, and now I need to verify my email address for it to work. So now what I've done is went to my email ID and I've clicked on the verify link. So once you are done with that, you will land on the screen, and from here you can see that it gives you an option to download the software for Mac or for Windows. So if you just click on it, it will keep on downloading that, and once it is downloaded, just click on it and just follow the prompts and you will be able to download the Docker, right? So I already have it, so I'll just cancel it, and next what we need to do is, so if you look at it, you will see the repositories. Just click on it, so you'll find that there are no repositories. So what we'll do is we'll push the repository with our images from our terminal. So once we do that, we'll see that the repository and the respective images getting created here. Once you've installed the Docker, you'll see this Docker icon at the top of your screen. So it gives you a couple of options, so you can just sign into it. So once you sign into it, you'll get some very nice UI view to do the stuff with your images and your containers. So I'll quickly enter my password. So once I'm signed in, so it will start showing my username and a bunch of other options. So yeah, so if I click on dashboard, you'll see that I'll get the Docker desktop view. So once I have this is my Docker desktop view. So currently there are no containers, even though I have one image, because that's what is from my initial installation, right? But you, in your screen, it won't be like, you won't have any options here. So let's switch back to IntelliJ. So in my IntelliJ, I have done a couple of things. For example, the first thing that I've done is I have renamed my manifest.yaml, because what happens is when you try to push your Docker image to SAP Cloud, that we'll do eventually, then it doesn't let you keep both options open, because it tries to read your manifest.yaml file. It's always best to just rename it to something that is not manifest.yaml. So I've just renamed it, and the other thing that I've added is a Docker file. So what basically the Docker will do is it will always read your Docker file for the instructions. So it contains some configuration options. Okay, so let's quickly go through them one by one. So the from option will actually give you the base image that you want to build from. So this from option is my OpenJDK image, because it's a Java application, right? And the second option is the volume. So it's an optional for our case, because we are not actually using the volume, but it's always best to give one. So I've just provided it a temp value there. And then my app runs on 8080, so I have exposed the 8080 port. And next what I'm doing is I'm just putting my whatever jar is present in my target folder into and renaming it to like voyager.jar, and this will be added to my container, to my image. Okay, so and then I have this Java option that I've just currently, I've not given any values here, but I've just kept it for the completion sake. So if you want to provide any values, you just need to provide them here, and they will be available to your image here. Okay, so and finally I've given the entry point where I've mentioned this particular setting, it's more like you are providing some random encrypted value to the JDK basically. And along with that, we just tell it to trigger my jar, which is the voyager.jar now, because I just put everything which was here in my target folder, which was the snapshot.jar, and put it by the name of voyager.jar. Let's go to our terminal. So in our terminal, what we'll do is we'll run a bunch of basically Docker related commands. And so let's see. So our Docker contains images and containers, right? So I should have the option to look at all the images which are there. So I just type Docker images, so it just shows an open GTK image which was also visible when you saw the view for Docker desktop. So nothing new here. And then if I look at the containers, Docker containers ls, yeah, so Docker container ls. Okay, so it's Docker container ls, so it only shows you the containers which are running. So if you just give an a, right now we don't have any containers, but if you want to see all the containers which got killed and which are no longer running, then just give it with an a option. Okay, so now we know that how to look at our images and our containers. Now without further ado, okay, let's build our image. For building our image, we'll use the command docker build. Okay, so for Docker build, what I need to give is the current location of my Docker file, right? So which is, I'm in the current directory, because if I do an ls here, you can see that I have the Docker file here. So what I'll do is I'll do a Docker build, give it the current path, give a -t option. Along with that, I'll provide my image name. Why I'm giving it in this format is because I need to push this image to the DockerHub, and DockerHub expects that your images are named like this. So my username and my basically my Docker ID and my repo. Okay, so yeah, so let's do it. So let's build it. So it's, yeah, so it's working on building my image. Okay, so our image is built and it's tagged with this. So this is nothing but the version for my image. So if I wanted, I could have given it like this. In that case, I'll be releasing the version 1, and if you don't provide it, it automatically converts it into like latest version. So once our image is built, the next step would be to run by after creating a container, right? So the command for that would be -p. So -dt signifies the interactive version. So I'll do -p, and then I have to give, so the source, the host port and my container port. Okay, so I'm exposing 8080 port from my container. Now I want to map with an option P my host port to my container port. So I will be able to access my app from my host machine, okay, on which I am working, and it will be able to access the 8080 port which is exposed inside the container. So once I do this, I need to provide the name to the app. So I'll just give the name, name to the container. So I'll just give the name as Voyager, and then I'll provide the image. Okay, so Voyager and latest. Okay, so I have this image. So this is my container, this is my image, and I'm telling it to name this container with this image and then run this container. Okay, so it has given me a success message back. Now let's see Docker images, what do we get? So now you see we have a new image here, and Docker container ls, right? So we have this container up and running, and you can even see that this is mapped to this port in my container, and this is the name of the container. We can actually validate this inside the Docker Hub as well. So if you see, I have this image now and I have this container which is running, and you get a lot of good options inside the Docker desktop. So you can open it in a browser, you can even look at the logs. So if you just click on it, we can see that our application was started, right? So what we can do next is we can check that whether our app is working fine or not, and you can click on this button which will open your default browser. I'll just go here and I'll do a localhost 8080 and crew. Yep, so if you see, I am getting the information and it is making a call to my container, and this 8080 port which is running which I'm hitting on my Mac is actually mapped to the port 8080 in the container, and that's how I'm getting the results. Okay, so we are able to run our container on our local. So now let's push our image on DockerHub, because that's the prerequisite to uh, run our app on SAP Cloud Foundry. So we need to complete that step. Back in my terminal now, let me just clear it. Now what we need to do is we need to push the image that we already have on our local to the DockerHub. Okay, so let's do it, for which what we need to do is we'll just log in into our account. So we'll just provide my username, so it will ask for my password, which I'll give it. So my login succeeded. Next one I need to do is I just need to do a docker push and give my image name. And if you have any doubts about these values, you can just check them in Docker desktop in images, or you see these values, right? Or you can even run Docker images command. So let's push it. Okay, so it has succeeded. So let's go to DockerHub and verify. Let's go to DockerHub and verify if we can see our image there. Back in my DockerHub, I can see that there's something pushed to my public repository. So it has created a Voyager repo, and if you see, I can see the tag latest, which was like pushed 2 minutes ago. So at this point of time, you can share this image with anyone who has access to DockerHub, and they can take this image and they can run it on their local, or they can run it on their prod environment, dev environment, Q environment. So that's what we'll also do. So we'll try to push this image and deploy it on SAP Cloud Foundry.